name is Dean Thompson, and welcome to another Escape to Gaming. Today I thought I'd kind of go back and start looking at some of these games I didn't have a chance to either finish from last year, or I played them and didn't really get a chance to review them. One of the games that I started to play but never finished until actually just last night is Medal of Honor Warfighter. Now this is a wonderful game that really took me by surprise. In fact, I pre-ordered the game not long after I picked up for my PS3 the 2010 Medal of Honor, which was really a surprisingly good game. At the time, I'm like, oh god, not another modern military shooter, and I wasn't real thrilled about the direction Medal of Honor was going, because to me it kind of was indicative with World War II, and I really love World War II history. My grandfather was in World War II, and actually survived a knife wound in the stomach in the Solomon Islands, and his brother wasn't so lucky and was shot down over France. So I grew up in actually a family of military people. Even to this day, I have people in the Navy and in the Army, and my nephew just over a year ago actually is in the Army. He's a huge gamer. In fact, he blows me out of the water, his gamer score. He's the type to put every game on hard the minute he puts it in. He's just a masochist. But anyway, I'm very proud of him. And I'm proud of all these military men that serve this country, so I can have the freedom to raise a family and have many of the freedoms that we all take for granted. So today I'm going to be talking about the Medal of Honor single-player campaign. I haven't had a chance to play the multiplayer yet, but it looks really good, and I bought the strategy guide intentionally so I can go through and kind of learn the classes and roll my sleeves up and dive into it. But I just finished last night the single-player campaign, and I was very impressed. I really was surprised. It had a few mixed reviews, so I kind of put it on the shelf because I was playing, actually 24 hours into Far Cry 3. So it's kind of a big switch to go from a very open world, kind of do any way you want, approach a mission from the Far Cry 3, to go to Medal of Honor Warfighter, which is a much more linear experience, which frankly all the Medal of Honors have always had that. But to me it's like Disneyland. It doesn't mean that's a bad ride, it's just a little bit more linear. Well, I just last year played finally the 2010 Medal of Honor, which was amazingly good. I really was very surprised. Now, it did have a very game-breaking bug for me that was frustrating. I had like 5 or 6 times I had to redo a level, and finally I figured out what I was doing wrong. And it was kind of a combination of a game bug and something I was advancing ahead of my teammates. But other than that, I really enjoyed the experience a lot. And I liked the fact that it was kind of a point A to point B journey that you take with these men, and you get attached to them throughout this mission of hunting down these Taliban and terrorists. And trying to get to really get to the bottom of what was happening in that area over there at the time. And so by the time you get to the end, you really get attached with the men. The feeling of loss is tremendous, and it was very emotional. I was very surprised at how good that story was. So I was very anxious. Based on that, I pre-ordered the Medal of Honor Warfighter. Now, the story of Medal of Honor Warfighter is a little bit removed from the 2010 version. Which was a very easy story to kind of follow. This one, it's kind of all over the map. As the main mission is you find your team comes across these extremely lethal and dangerous explosives that can be used in terrorism, and there's a lot of them. And you've got to try to find where the source of it is. You're searching through this network of black market arms dealers and terrorists trying to find it. So you're all over the map, and you're actually working with other coalition forces to try to round this stuff up. So you're working with men from another coalition forces in the Philippines, you're working in Pakistan with other ones, and I really like that part of it. It kind of gives you a little taste of the world, a different kind of a flavor of this whole multiple regions around the globe, which I thought was interesting compared to the other one, which is pretty much in Afghanistan in the mountains. Now, one of the things that I thought was very interesting about it is that the story didn't make a lot of sense at first, but I kind of stayed with it. And then later, it all starts to coalesce and you figure it out. Kind of like if you've ever seen the movie Pulp Fiction, very similar. You're moving forward, backwards, sideways, all over the map, but near the end of it, it all makes sense, it all jives, and it all kind of comes together to make a wonderful story. Well, the story of this Medal of Honor Warfighter is more of a personal one. It's about these men. It's a really tough job. As you can imagine, it's really tough on the families. And I know firsthand, I got some relatives back on the East Coast that are going through some hard times. One of their husbands away on these nuclear submarines for long periods of time. there's just a lot of stress for these families, and I know it. My nephew right now is going through a lot of it, as always he's going to pick up and he's moving in different locations around the country. So I really feel for these men. And I take my hat off to Danger Close, who's a wonderful studio, by the way, that made this game. What they did is, what they nailed down right was they nailed the feeling of what these men go through. And they didn't have to do that. They could have just gone the Michael Bay direction. And there's some of those Michael Bay explosions and set pieces in, certainly in the game. But I like the fact that they really try to focus on the individual feelings and emotions that the men go through, that their wives and families go through. And that's something that I don't think is really talked about enough, because war is an awful nasty business. I have very mixed feelings about it. I'm kind of on the middle of the road politically with a lot of this stuff. I still have mixed feelings about even portraying these kind of games when we have men over there that are, risking their lives and dying. But the fact that this game shows, and especially by the end of the game, it's a tribute to these men and what they go through, I think is very, very special. Warfighter is almost like an interactive movie. It's almost kind of a perfect marriage between a great movie, which is one of my favorites, We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson, kind of crossed with Act of Valor, which I just saw recently on Blu-ray, and it's just an incredible film, very, very intense. So I like the fact that it's trying to tell us a great story, and it does it through a wonderful sense of realism. Danger Close did a fantastic job capturing the feeling of using these different weapons, from the incredible sound design, just the appropriate kind of music that's not too overpowering, it's just right at just the right times to carry you and propel you through the story. And it really creates an atmosphere of going through what these guys go through. It's very intense. And you have a great range of missions: day missions, nighttime missions, missions in the water, missions at boats. Some of them are very short missions you could do in 10-15 minutes. Others take a couple hours if you have to redo them a few times. What you also get with the game is it's not your standard run-of-the-mill FPS experience. It really introduced a lot of things. Now, we've kind of seen this before in the Battlefield series where you're driving vehicles and there's on-rail sections, but it's done very nice. It's a really good balance. They introduce a few new things also, but you got elements where you're with your team as in an FPS capacity, or you're by yourself. You're in a helicopter with a minigun, very intense. You get another scene where you're in another helicopter with your teammates with a sniper rifle, and it's tricky. It's kind of circling around an encampment or town, and you got to take out the terrorist, and it's really tricky, but it's a lot of fun. There's other parts where you're rescuing hostages, and you get away in these inflatable boats, and you're trying to get the hell out of there, and just the whole world is coming down around, and you're just trying to get out. You got a grenade launcher, very intense. I really liked just a tremendous amount of detail, and how they were able to really nail down the feeling of going through the storm and just the chaos that's all around you. It's done very, very well. There's two wonderful driving scenes, which actually caught me quite off guard by surprise as to how good they were. Very intense. It just gets your adrenaline all pumped up. One of them, you're just trying to get the hell out of there. You got a guy, you got him in the trunk, you got to get out of there any way you can, and all of a sudden they all come down and they say, oh, everyone knows where your location is. You're trying to evade all of these black cars. It's actually almost like a stealth game in a way. On that level, you have to quickly pull off and hide in an area. You're waiting for them to come by. You have a little mini map. You can see where they are. Your guy says, okay, go. You go to the next spot. I kept getting caught a couple times, had to redo it a few times, but very, very fun. I really take my hat off to them for doing something new with the driving scenes. Criterion Games, who did Need for Speed Most Wanted, actually did that segment from a first-person shooter driving sequence, and a wonderful sound. The cars sounded great. The music was very appropriate, really cool. Another one, you're just trying to chase this guy down like an old Toyota truck, and you're just railing through town and knocking stuff over, going down alleyways, catching air off things, hanging corners, sideswiping other vehicles. Really cool, very intense. Very good degree of chaos that they were able to capture with this game. What else do they have? They just got some just great missions. You got this really cool drone, like a special little robotic drone that they send in to save lives, and I like that. And it goes in there, and it's got cameras, and you can see in flashlights, and it can shoot a grenade launcher, machine guns, and goes in and kind of paves the way for your guys. Excellent. A really nice new elements that they brought to the table with this game that I haven't seen in really a lot of other games. So all in all, it's a rich experience, Medal of Honor Warfighter. I gotta say too that what they did with this Frostbite 2 engine that primarily DICE uses, as we know for the Battlefield series, is even more epic, I think, in this. I honestly, and I thought that they couldn't outdo the Battlefield 3 graphics. I think that this gives Battlefield 3 a run for its money. It has even better lighting effects. They capture a vast array of atmospheres, day, night, smoke, fog, dust. It has kind of a gritty, drab realism at times. Other times you got heightened explosions and bright, vibrant colors. It's very, very well done. As a graphic artist and designer, none of that gets past me. I notice all of that stuff. This is the finest looking shooter I think I've ever played. And I've played quite a few of them, and I like quite a few of them. They're like hamburgers. Some people like McDonald's or, Burger King or Wendy's. Everyone has their favorite. And it's pretty subjective. So, I'm not saying that, this is better than Call of Duty or it's better than Battlefield. I just enjoyed it myself. And I thought it was very, very well done. It's an extremely well crafted film. The sound is impeccable. The sound design is very, very impressive. And the sounds of the weapons, it's not quite as punchy and dramatic as some, but very realistic. So I really appreciate the direction towards realism that Danger Close took with this game. The game also has some really cool little details which I like. They have a peek and lean cover-based system, which is really cool. At first I didn't use it the first level or so, and then I started using it and found it was quite helpful. Where you can kind of peek up just enough, take a shot, aim your line your shot up, shoot, get back behind cover. Really helpful. They also have a deal where you're getting low on ammo, you can hit your teammate up for ammo, which they also had in the 2010 one, which is really used. It's actually, I like that a lot. I wish more games had that. The other thing that I think is kind of cool is that they have a little skull icon that appears if you get a headshot. So sometimes you can't quite tell if someone's dead, if you shot him or not. This confirms that you got a kill. If it turns red, the little skull icon turns red, then you know it was basically a one-hit kill. So these are the kind of refinements that I really appreciate, along with the clean menus and a lot of the other cutscenes and details. Overall, it's a very well clean, stylish package that makes a great shooter. So by the time I got to Medal of Honor Warfighter, I felt like I had been on a real roller coaster. Everything from the action, hunting down the terrorists and these weapons, dealing with loss along the way, dealing with these personal story elements which really come together front and center by the time you reach the end of this game. That's really where it comes down to. It ends up with a very heartfelt message that is shown and is said, verbally on the screen about these men and what they go through and their supreme sacrifice that they make so that we can, have the freedom that we have, which frankly a lot of us take for granted. That's where this game gets it right. Danger Close did a wonderful job, relaying that. I mean, I had a lump in my throat the size of a Buick by the time the game was at its end, and tears coming out of my eyes. It's a very surprisingly good story, even more so, I think, honestly, than the first one. I really enjoyed the game. I would highly recommend getting the game and playing it if you're a fan of military shooters. It's very, very well done. It's one of the finest graphic presentations I've ever seen in a war game, especially a contemporary one. And again, it's grounded in a sense of realism with a wonderful story. It's very, very heartfelt. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Dean Thompson. You've been watching another Escape to Gaming program. I'm also going to be kind of going over some other games that I've missed, like Warfighter from 2012 that I thought were quite good. So stay tuned, and I'll have some wonderful reviews coming very shortly. Thank you so much for watching.